thank you very much, first of all, for having accepted the invitation for this chat that we will be having.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Let's have a casual chat.
Of course. And we are here with Professor Wang from City University of Hong Kong. And we are here because of this International Symposium on Geotechnical Safety and Risk, but mainly because today you, together with another co-chair from Deltares, you ran a short course on Bayesian methods and tools for geotechnical engineering. Why the idea of such a course, first of all? How did you come up, you and Timo, with the idea of such a course?
The idea is really start by Timo. And I think he ran the short course 2 years ago in the United States when the last conference of this series. And I think they went out well, and probably he liked it and he want to do it again. And so he contacted me to say that because now this time is in Asia, and he asked me whether I would like to go together. And for me, I think we're doing research and we do have some method developed. And very importantly, I think that, at least personally, I think that at the end of the day, we hope the method will be useful for the engineer practice by the practitioner. So I think the short course will be a good idea to somehow disseminate these kinds of our research output to the end user. Because as academia, we were really doing research out of our personal interest, whether we like it or not, and we do it. Right? If we don't like it, we don't do it. If we like it, we do it. We try. But this is very different from industry, right? They have some kinds of design they need to complete, and they have a lot of problems they probably have to face and they have to solve in their design. So we just. At least I just think that this may be a platform that we can use to somehow introduce some of our method to, and also like to receive the comment and the feedback from not only from the industry but also from the academia and a lot of college also working on the same area. We also like to have their comment on what we are doing as well. So this is the main reason that we do it.
Yeah, connecting with that, in your experience, what is the gap, or in other words, the link between research and the practice in this field? Is there research is more advanced than what people are doing in practice, and if so, in your experience, where should we push already the practicing engineers to adopt these methods? For what applications, if you can think of some application, or for what fields, if you can think about some fields?
You mean for the Bayesian method?
For the Bayesian methods, for how can they be really pushed into practice? And is there a gap between research and practice at this stage?
Yeah, I think obviously in terms of geotechnical research, there's always a very big gap between what's doing in research and what's doing in practice. If you look at the paper publishing journal,
research by default must be at
but for the Bayesian method, I think we need to work on the topic or the questions that the practical engineer really have difficulty, and they have to deal with that on their daily practice. And so we need to understand their difficulty first. So what is in a sense, what is the real questions they're interested in, and they have to deal with on a daily basis. And for us, we try to start the Bayesian research from these kinds of determinations of the characteristic value for soil property. And this is one of the issues, no matter you're using probabilistic method or not. Even in the traditional geotechnical design, there's always an issue how to select the design property. And so far, there's no other ways they can solve. But engineers still have to deal with that on their daily design project. So we think this is a good starting point to communicate with the engineer. You see that, trying to give them the example. And the other thing is that the engineers are very busy. they do have their project to handle, and it's going to be very difficult. I keep asking them, you need to learn a lot of new method. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to compile the thing to some kinds of user-friendly software. So for example, the Bayesian stuff that we try to do, we do a Bayesian equivalent sample toolkits and based on Excel, because a lot of our engineers probably using their daily calculation using Excel spreadsheet. So we add our function on top of the Excel and hope that we're able to show them the interface is the one that very familiar with, so they're using Excel anyway. And the second one is that trying to show that you not only with this add-in, you only need to do a few click here and there, and then you can get a lot of information, which may be useful for dealing with these difficult questions of how to select the characteristic value. And that's basically the approach we are taking, and hope that we can able to convince the practical engineer to at least try. And it like it or not, I mean, what kind of comment they have, and we are here to collect the feedback and comment. Yeah,
in terms of applications and applicability of the tools, the ones that you developed, and also generally speaking, Bayesian updating tools, for what kind? Today, of course, we were staying the full day discussing about these issues. But if you would, if you can highlight some applications that are good for this sort of tools. I remember that when you were talking among the other things that you said, at some point you said at the very beginning, discussing about the frequentist approach versus a degree of belief approach of probabilistic analysis, there is no better approach, even philosophically, for everything. For some cases you have something, for some cases you have some. It depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want to highlight or pinpoint a few applications that are already there, like for this sort of
the
tools.
frequenties?
Mm-hmm. No, not the frequenties. Now I'm saying for Bayesian tools, for Bayesian updating, for Bayesian reasoning, where should geotechnical engineers really try to move?
I think the site investigation one, that one will be, because that one involves most of them information processing. Okay, they did not involve too much of the mechanics, of soil mechanics, or this kinds of. You need to build a mechanical model to do things. You're building the model, numerical model for the information. So that one, I believe that they have probably is a good starting point. And also, this is the problem that the practicing engineer they're facing now. Okay, so we can first get the interest, because that is the problem they're working on. Second, then we're able to give them the tool. Hopefully we can use that. And as you mentioned, I think there's a combination of both frequencies and the Bayesian. It's not saying that all the case we should use all Bayesian. There's some of the case, for example, very obviously, you talk about the development of geotechnical design code. A lot of this kind of calibration, they're all based on the target failure probability. And that very obviously is coming from the frequencies point of view. They interpret it as that you follow the design code. You have, for example, if the target failure probability is 1 over 1,000, so that means that you follow the design code to do the design, you will expect every 10,000 of the foundation in design, you probably expect 10 failure case, that kind of thing. So this is very obviously they're trying to interpret it from the frequencies point of view. In this case, you probably not applicable if you're trying to use a degree of belief, right? You cannot say that I believe in the code. What is the target failure probability, that kind of thing. So probably it's a combination of both, and depends on what kinds of application you have in your hand, and you're trying to study what is the uncertainty and what is, do you have to really something that you should treat it as a randomness, and then you decide which approach you use. And so that's my personal.
Of course, here we are in a environment, research environment, a practice environment, this symposium, this course where we give it for granted that, uncertainty, risk, and probabilistic analysis are needed for certain applications, but there is a resistance that is sometimes there even for accepting the probabilistic framework as a working tool versus a more user-friendly or more established deterministic framework. Is it fair to say, by thinking about what some of the discussion was during this day, is it fair to say that maybe Bayesian tools are also maybe possibly easier to get accepted than other probabilistic approaches, or not
I
really?
certainly hope. That's what I hope. But,
for geotechnical engineers, because we are,
That's certainly what I hope, that probably because it seems that the ways that geotechnical engineering think, the geotechnical thinking, is actually quite consistent with these kinds of Bayesian thinking.
Exactly.
And that probably have a slightly better chance when compared with the frequentist approach. But I don't know. This is the hope that we have. That's why we're working on this area. But it depends on how we end up, and there's nothing we can do, or we can complain. We just live with that. We do our best, and
as you said, everybody's doing his own job, and for both of us in this case, we are researchers, professors. That's our job. Maybe just a last question to close this conversation. I had the same question also for Timo, the other co-chair of this session. If you think of yourself, many years ago, before you approached for research these problems, the adoption of Bayesian reasoning and tools for geotechnical applications, and if you think of yourself now, what changed? Is there anything that changed, the way you were thinking about a certain?
Oh yes, certainly yes. I mean, the good thing about Bayesian, that the more you get into it, you can easily explain a lot of phenomena on our daily life. For example, the Monty Hall, the problem that Timo saw.
Exactly. Maybe I will link this in the recording. We were talking about the Monty Hall experiment, and that's an experiment is. And not intuitive in some sense, so it's really something very interesting to think of.
When I taught a postgraduate course in my City University of Hong Kong, and for the PhD student, and we talk a little bit on the Bayesian stuff. And there's another example I quite often use in daily life is that, now we ask a lot of children to take a vaccine. But we're not sure about whether this vaccine is useful or not, particularly for the flu. I'm not sure about in your country, but in this part of the world, that probably when the winter comes, the flus, this kinds of virus is very bad. But now they have the vaccine for the flu, but if you look at the news, the data they're trying to present and trying to convince the people. Is actually, when you do a Bayesian statistic analysis, the number they saw actually telling people you should not take the vaccine. You should not take the vaccine. And so I think we more into this kind of Bayesian learning, and then we probably we're more sensitive to the number.
No. You were mentioning vaccines. That's a really hot topic in the Western countries these days, but not the flu vaccine. That's something that it's seasonal, and you don't know in advance exactly what kind of flu is coming. This sort of thing. Now in the news, it's very much for us. The perception of people that vaccines for known diseases are not useful, but that's a wrong perception. Like, there is a lot of this going on, but of course, it's important also to interact with people perceptions at times, and then Bayesian updating, as you mentioned, for this example, this is not a geotechnical example. It's also something that really somehow we are using in our daily lives when people are making computations and predictions.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice talking to you.
Well, and it was nice. I can say it one more time. It was very nice. Like maybe I can ask you the feeling, your feeling about the course. How did it go? Like in terms of participation and at the end of the day, are you satisfied with that?
I think it's much better than what I expected because to be honest, when we asked the organizers, the conference organizer, Professor Zheng Yiqing, for the list of the participant or the list of the registration about 1 week before the short course, and we are surprised because originally we thought that we're going to the audience really coming from industry or government or something, rather than a lot of people is from academia.
Yeah.
And we also know that a lot of people actually working on this area. You know that actually immediately I was a bit nervous. I would say a lot of participants don't need a short course, so we try to treat it as this probably is a starting point to stimulate the discussion and hope that we can exchange ideas and to see whether there's different views on this kind of Bayesian method and how it can be best used from different perspectives in our geotechnical engineering and that kind of.
In that I can say, in my opinion, I was successful, and so like.
Thank you.
I thank you for that as well.
Okay,
Thank you very much.